Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, today we're going to completely demystify the entire language learning process. If you've ever felt like, learning a new language is a literal rocket science, or maybe something that's just reserved for those natural-born geniuses out there, well, you are absolutely in the right place. We're diving right in to break down the exact secrets used by hyper-polyglots. These are the crazy impressive people who speak 10 or more languages. And we'll look at the high-speed tactics of US military linguists, too. We're going to show you exactly how to learn any language and do it fast.
But first, we really have to address the elephant in the room here, right? Why do we fail? Honestly, so many of us have lived through this exact painful frustration. You sit in a high school or, a college classroom for 3, 4, maybe even 5 years studying a language. You diligently do all your homework, you pass the tests, and then you take a trip abroad only to realize you barely know how to ask someone where the bathroom is. Meanwhile, there's a 5-year-old local kid just speaking perfectly, probably correcting your grammar. It feels incredibly unfair, doesn't it? And it just kind of makes us believe we aren't wired for it. And you know that feeling of inadequacy? It is totally fueled by societal myths. Most notably, this incredibly daunting number right here, 10,000. You've probably heard of the 10,000-hour rule, right? The whole idea that it takes 10,000 hours to master a new skill. Well, author Josh Kaufman actually looked into this and found that this number creates a massive mental block for us. 10,000 hours is literally a full-time job for 5 whole years. When we see that massive number, we immediately just think, nope, I don't have the time or the talent for that, so we don't even start.
But here's the best part. Kaufman's research reveals a much smaller, way more exciting number, and that is 20. See, the 10,000-hour rule really only applies to reaching the absolute top of ultra-competitive fields. Think chess grandmasters or pro athletes. But to go from knowing absolutely nothing to just being reasonably good at a new skill, it actually only takes 20 hours. Yep, 20 hours of focused, deliberate practice. That completely changes the game, right?
And this revelation totally helps us dismantle our next big hurdle, which is the childhood advantage myth. We just kind of assume kids are these magical language sponges and adults are, well, rigid. But researchers and polyglots like Matthew Yolden and Gabriel Weiner, they point out a very different reality. Sure, kids have zero fear of making mistakes, and yeah, they have like 15,000 hours of free time to just be exposed to a language. But adults? We are actually smarter. We already have a lifetime of experience with learning. We know how to learn. So when we're given the exact same amount of time, we adults actually acquire language much, much faster than children do.
Section 1, High-Intensity Immersion Tactics. Let's get into it. So how do we actually apply that adult learning advantage at absolute maximum velocity? Well, look no further than the U.S. Defense Language Institute, or DLI. These guys are tasked with creating fluent military linguists at absolute record speed for really high-stakes intelligence and frontline operations. And let me tell you, a day there is grueling. We're talking waking up at 05:30 for chores, hitting intensive language classes for 6 straight hours starting at 07:30, moving right into physical training, and then facing mandatory study halls and hours of homework until 10 p.m. Students there describe the whole experience as drinking from a fire hose. Because they are eating, sleeping, and breathing their target language, it literally forces their adult brains to adapt incredibly rapidly.
To actually survive this crazy schedule, the students rely on some highly specific tactics. For languages with completely new alphabets, like Arabic, for example, they start with weeks of what they call scream and scribble. These are intense sound and script drills designed to just completely wire the new alphabet into the brain before they even think about tackling vocabulary. But the real magic? That happens in their ISO immersion facilities. They literally lock students in a mock environment, like a fake airport or a foreign village, for up to 5 days. And get this, only the target language is allowed. No English. They have to haggle for food, try to pass through fake customs, even navigate angry security guards. It violently forces real-world high-stakes usage over boring classroom theory.
All right, Section 2, the polyglot state of mind.
Now, obviously, most of us don't have a literal military drill sergeant keeping us in line, right? So how do everyday polyglots, the people who learn language after language from the comfort of their own couches, how do they hack the process? Well, their first major secret is focusing on high-frequency vocabulary. And this brilliantly illustrates data from linguist Chris Lonsdale, showing that focusing on the right words drastically shrinks the mountain you have to climb. Think about this. In English, just 1,000 words cover 85% of anything you will ever say in daily communication. 85%. Expand that to 3,000 words, and you are covering 98% of daily conversations. It's wild. You absolutely do not need to know every single word in the dictionary. You just need to equip your linguistic toolbox with the most crucial, high-frequency words first. The next secret these polyglots share is incredibly simple but so important. Make it enjoyable. Like polyglot Lydia Mahova realized she just hated traditional textbook dialogues. So what did she do? She started reading translations of Harry Potter and watching her favorite sitcom Friends dubbed in German. And yeah, it was total gibberish at first, but because she loved the content so much, she kept watching until it finally clicked. Another language expert, Brian Wiles, recommends what he calls the walking technique. Basically, instead of sitting miserably at a desk cramming, you put on a podcast in your target language, walk around outside in the fresh air, and just quietly repeat the phrases you hear. Honestly, the actual secret to consistent learning is finding your personal joy and completely avoiding those boring textbooks. And this kind of enjoyable immersion naturally leads us to a really core concept called comprehensible input. Think about how a baby learns for a second. They definitely don't study grammar charts, right? Instead, they pay close attention to body language, to tone, to the context of the situation, to understand the message being conveyed to them, even if they don't know the exact words. When you focus intensely on the core meaning of what someone is trying to communicate, your brain actually acquires the language completely unconsciously.
Moving on to Section 3, hacking your memory.
So, okay, we know what to study and we know how to make it fun, but how do we actually store these new foreign words in our brains so we don't just forget them the very next day? Language expert Gabriel Weiner uses this totally fantastic story to explain it, which we'll call the Moon Tour memory web. So imagine you're in a Scandinavian bar. A huge Viking barkeep pours you this disgusting, rotting, fish-scented green liquid from a dusty bottle labeled Moon Tour. The whole bar is staring at you chanting, Moon Tour, and you're forced to drink it. It tastes absolutely awful. Let me tell you, you will remember the word Moon Tour for the rest of your life. And why is that? Because it's suddenly tied to a vivid image, a terrible smell, a super strong emotion, and a completely visceral experience. Rote translation totally fails because it lacks these deep connections, but when you tie a new word to sensory experiences, you literally lock it into your brain forever. So the crucial point here is what Chris Lonsdale calls same box, different path. You see, most people try to learn by constantly translating a foreign word back into their mother tongue inside their head, and that is incredibly inefficient. Actually, scratch that. It's a huge waste of time. Instead, you need to connect the new foreign sound directly to the image or the feeling that's already in your mind. If you're learning the French word for fire, please don't think of the English word fire. No, connect the French sound directly to the smell of the smoke, the intense heat, and the visual image of flames. You want to bypass your mother tongue completely.
Which brings us to Section 4, the 20-hour action plan.
All right, we've covered a lot of really fascinating ground today, so let's bring it all together into a concrete, actionable framework you can literally start using today. Here is Josh Kaufman's 4-step framework for rapid skill acquisition. Step 1, deconstruct the skill. Basically, figure out those 1,000 most common words you actually need to survive. Step 2, learn just enough to self-correct. Don't procrastinate by hoarding a dozen language books. Start speaking and listening right away so you actually notice your own mistakes. Step 3, remove barriers. Put the phone in another room, turn off the TV so you actually sit down to do the work. And step 4, honestly the most important one, practice for 20 hours. You just have to push through that initial, really uncomfortable emotional barrier where you kind of feel stupid. We all go through it.
And hey, when you break it down, 20 hours of practice is so incredibly achievable. It's really just 45 minutes a day for about 1 month. That's it. By carving out just a tiny fraction of your day, maybe replacing your morning commute playlist with a foreign podcast, or swapping your late-night doom scrolling for a dubbed TV show, you can absolutely push through that incompetence phase. Before you know it, you'll arrive at a place where you are actually genuinely communicating in a brand new language.
I want to wrap up this explainer with a truly beautiful Ukrainian proverb shared by polyglot Matthew Yolden. The more languages you know, the more people you are. Because learning a language isn't just about miserably memorizing grammar rules. It's about unlocking totally new cultures, forming new connections, and discovering entirely new ways to think and exist in the world. So grab your 45 minutes today, go make some embarrassing mistakes, have a ton of fun with it, and go expand your world. So what new world are you going to unlock first? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you on the next one.